against the Hague NATO Summit 2025. We will start with our chant. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Our first speech is September 23rd movement from Bulgaria.
Hello comrades, we are here during the NATO Summit 2025 in Hague. We are here to resist the imperialist policy of the US imperialism. We are here to call for the dismissal of NATO, for destruction of this organization that was created to fight against the communism in the world, against the Soviet Union in the first place. This organization has to go where it belongs to the history. We have to build a new society in which such an imperialistic organization will not make sense at all. The future belongs to the free nations, to the friendship between the nations, because the people around the world, they're brothers. The things that unite them are much more than the things that divide them. We have to put our attention on this solidarity between the nations, because only with the solidarity the NATO could be defeated and imperialism could be defeated. The victory will be ours.
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Next speech is Workers' Party of Ireland. Comrades, we know what imperialism looks like because Comrade Lenin laid out conditions of imperialism for us in 1917. And we know that NATO, even when it is not an exact match, looks awfully like an imperialist power. NATO protects the interests of monopolistic capital, even if it is not a monopoly in itself. And we see this in the way in its relations with the big countries, the big moneyed countries, like Germany and France and the US and the UK. We know that NATO does not represent finance capital per se, but it's always aligned with the states that are dominated by financial oligarchies. And we see that through privatization, through contracts, through the way that private companies swoop in whenever there have been NATO actions. We know that NATO provides military infrastructure that facilitates capital exports and investment. We know that NATO resembles the kind of international coordination among imperialist powers that Lenin warned us against, albeit in a new and insidious military political form. And we also know that NATO reflects and enforces a division of global influence among core capitalist states. NATO is an imperialist enemy, and we must fight it with everything that we have. We must do everything we have. We must use everything we have to prevent further imperialist wars. And we must band together, because the only victims in imperialist wars are always workers. Thank you. Thank you. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
The platform statement, which was announced last Saturday, will be announced again. Comrades, brothers and sisters, fighters for peace and justice, greetings from the front lines of the world anti-imperialist struggle. We gather here in the Hague, just a few kilometers from NATO's Joint First Command in Brussels, not as silent observers, but as resolute combatants in a war of liberation, not with bullets of bombs, but with truth, with unity, and with the collective power of the people. We say today loud and clear, NATO is not a defensive alliance. It is the armed wing of imperialism. It is the command center of World War III, and it must be dismantled. NATO's history is written in the blood of the oppressed. It is a long list of crimes, wars of aggression, occupation, destruction, and genocide, from Korea to Kosovo, from Afghanistan to Libya, and now from Ukraine to the Pacific. NATO has left behind the trail of rubble, ashes, and mass graves.
Let us remember Kosovo in 1999, when NATO bombed Yugoslavia for 78 days. Over 500 civilians were killed, thousands wounded, and entire cities reduced to ruin. Cluster bombs, deplete uranium, and other banned weapons were used with impunity. The so-called humanitarian intervention was nothing but another imperialist invasion masked in liberal language. Let us remember Afghanistan, 20 years of NATO occupation, where over 170,000 people were killed, millions displaced, and a whole generation was condemned to life under bombs and drones. What did NATO leave behind? A broken country, a destroyed society, and a deep wound in the whole heart of West Asia. Let us remember Libya in 2011. NATO launched 7,500 airstrikes in just 5 months. Entire families were wiped out. Hospitals bombed, schools reduced to dust. And what followed? The dismemberment of a nation, the theft of its resources, and the return of slave markets to Africa. That is NATO's legacy. And today, NATO is preparing for the next stage, its Pacific expansion, its war plan against China, the DPRK, and Russia. In 2024 alone, NATO staged massive military drills in the Pacific, RIMPAC, pitch black, Pacific skies, Pacific dragons. Make no mistakes, these are not defensive exercises. They are rehearsals for war. The war in Ukraine is not a tragic misunderstanding. It is the result of decades of NATO expansionism, of broken promises, military encirclement, and strategic provocation. The war continues today not because Russia wants it, but because NATO cannot survive without it. War is NATO's lifeblood. Comrades, Europe is not a victim. It is the launch pad. It is the NATO's forward base. Hundreds of US and NATO bases stretch across this continent like a castle. Tactical nuclear weapons are deployed in Italy, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, preparing for war that could destroy all of humanity. This is not defense. This is madness. NATO is the true street toward peace. And that is why we say, disband NATO. Dismantle every NATO military base and every occupation. This is a global fight. Our struggle is one with the peoples of Palestine, with the resistance in Lebanon, with the people of Syria, Iraq, Venezuela, and Cuba. Every nation that has stood against the US and NATO domination. They have tanks, but we have trust. They have bombs, but we have unity. They have empires, but we have history on our side. And history is made by the people. So today, from The Hague to Havana, from Gaza to Caracas, from Seoul to Johannesburg, we raise our one voice, one demand, disband NATO now. Let us unite under this banner. Smash NATO, the imperialist war machine. Victory to the peoples of the world. Peace, sovereignty, and liberation for all nations. Down with imperialism, forward to revolution. Okay, thank you. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Next speech is New Communist Party of Yugoslavia.
The Dear comrades and friends, I salute you, all of you, in front of the new Communist Party of Yugoslavia. It's very important that we gathering here to send message solidarity with all people in the world who fight against the imperialism, against the NATO. It's very important that we send this message in the day and the city when they organized new NATO summit. What does it mean? That means that they want to make a new plan how they can conquer the new sovereignty and free countries. They don't want to that exist socialist, anti-imperialist and sovereignist countries. It's very important that we send massive solidarity with all of people of the world who fight against the NATO, against the imperialism. NATO is the only one tool of the imperialism. Also, they use the sanctions. They want to bring the sanctions to some countries, and they after the very long time, after the economical sanctions, after that they want to destroy this country with the war. Experience of my country teach us it. And also this is very important that for this place with solidarity with the people from Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. Also with people of Russia who fought against the NATO in Ukraine. Also with the people in Palestine, people in Iran, and in every corner of the world that people fight, like in Yemen, with NATO and Western imperialism. Also in our region, in the Balkan region, the main problem is the NATO. NATO occupied our countries and they control the process and political process in our countries. They led the policies divided and conquer. And they want to control every process in our countries. That is our main goal, that we gathering all progressive forces, that we need to know that we need to first destroy the Western imperialism and their main tools, NATO pact. Solidarity with the people. Long live anti-imperialist struggle. Long live anti-NATO struggle. Long live.
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Next speech is Peace for People from Netherlands.
There is, certainly in the Netherlands, an awareness of political texts and actions that are not in the interest of the public. There is, certainly in the Netherlands, an awareness of political facts and actions that are not in the interest of the population, the voters, but are in the interest of the system, which has a different self-interest. The awareness of the link with the economic and labor story is unfortunately far away from most Dutch citizens. And the greater alertness with regard to what is going on regarding various subjects as the current warmongering, restrictions of freedom, restrictions of privacy, etc., is seen more by the political right, where class consciousness is generally lacking. A book like When Marx Was Still in Fashion, recently written by Professor Kees van der Pijl, for example, should be translated into English in order to create more awareness and historical consciousness. We must look for these kinds of paths, which are necessary in our struggle to connect knowledge and practice. Thank you, comrades.
Okay. Next speech is anti-fascist former resistance fighter from Netherlands.
Thank you, comrades. I want to talk a bit about the two faces of our country, the Netherlands, where right now the NATO summit is hosted. Because yes, our country hosts the imperialist war summit right now, and yes, our country is in the core of the imperialist structure. But our country has both anti-imperialist struggles, popular struggles in the past and in the present. So a recent example, not even 2 weeks ago, 150,000 people were on this very field we're standing on to oppose support for the genocide in Gaza, which is supported by our government. A recent poll found that only 4% of our country is completely in favor of Israel, has a very positive view of Israel, and only 15% a somewhat positive view. That means that the overwhelming majority of our country is aware of the dynamics at play and are standing on the right side of history there. A bit further back in the past, during the COVID era, a huge mobilization of people not seen in decades happened, where people were standing up for their civil rights, for their right to freedom of movement, freedom to make medical choices. And this was a movement that found broad support in a part of the country that is not even traditionally very much politically engaged. It created a new kind of political awareness, and a new mass formation happened in the Netherlands. But in our history as well, yes, our history has a very checkered past. We colonized Indonesia and waged a genocidal war against the war of liberation fought by the people of Indonesia. And yes, we have a colonial past, and much of the wealth of the country is built on that historically. However, when this country was founded as an independent state, that was during the 80 Years' War. This was in the era when the first post-feudal forms started to form in Europe. Feudalism in Europe was supported by the Catholic Church. Therefore, at this time, Protestantism was a revolutionary ideology, trying to break away from feudalism and form a bourgeois society. The first successful attempt, or one of the first successful attempts, and the first successful attempt in an entire country to break free from this structure of feudalism in Europe was in our very country, in the Netherlands, where the Protestant radicals fought a civil war against the Spanish occupiers, which did represent the Spanish Empire, which at that time did represent feudalism in Europe very much. And this struggle, at the forefront of this struggle, was a group of religious fanatics that fought against the oppression of their country, for the liberation of their country, motivated by their understanding of religious fanaticism. And you can see a very interesting parallel to the Palestinian struggle in this regard, because not all the Palestinian groups have the same understanding of national liberation and a struggle for national development that we do. But the fact is that all these groups, they are fighting against the system of imperialism, which is what is holding back history in our time. Just like the system of feudalism was holding back history back in the days when the Dutch gained their independence. So we must judge those who fight the struggles in history by the side they fight on, not by the ideology they have. And in this sense, I want to draw attention to the struggle of the Iranian people against the Zionist aggression right now. And I find it important to find in each country, in each society, how these examples of struggle are the same, even though their ideological character can be very different. So, long live international solidarity.
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!